Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Cynthia.
And today we're talking about Season 3, Episode 13, titled The Wind That Blew My Heart Away. Air date February 1st, 2006, and the synopsis is:
A rainstorm knocks out the power in Tree Hill, leading Haley to Nathan's doorstep and Brooke out into the downpour for a dramatic confrontation with Lucas. Peyton finally confronts the truth about Ellie's illness, while mouth is tempted by Rachel. Before morning secrets are revealed, relationships are tested, and new love gets hotter than ever. So we start off with Lucas. The storm's already been going on, so he walks in, soaked from the rain. And he asks Brooke if there's a towel she can use, but she, says that she'll give him a towel if he gives her his next letter. To the reply of her last one that he's been reading, because, he's reading one per day. And then, he says he just hopes that he doesn't disappoint her because he knows he set the bar high with the first two letters. And Brooke tells him to shush because she's reading. And, she's getting into it. She likes it. And then he asks if what he wrote is okay because it looked like something wasn't right when the smoke alarm goes off. And then the oven is smoking in the kitchen. Lucas takes care of it while Brooke is focused on the letter. And this is when I noticed she had flour on her cheeks. So she had probably been baking because she did bake those cookies when they were doing that little sweatshop of hers for her fashion line, her website.
Yeah, but I don't think they're good because nobody ate them.
Yeah, so... And obviously this batch is burnt now, so that's not going to be any good either. And then we go to Peyton's house where she comes back in after being in the rain to see Ellie crying in the bathroom. Because she knows that Ellie's decided to leave. She's packed everything and put it on the bed.
So this has been a couple weeks, and in a couple weeks they got the album done.
I guess somehow.
Because they talk about, it's been nice for a couple weeks. And I'm like, in a couple weeks, you got all these artists to record and it's finished and ready to go. Where basically soon, like in a couple days, the album is actually going to be, done. Like actually, you're going to have a physical copy of it. I'm like, I don't really think I feel like it would take a couple months. I don't feel like it would be, in a couple weeks, we're going to have this done. You're going to have an album in your hand or the CD in your hand. I didn't really believe that.
Right. Because you got to count the time for how, long it takes to even get them distributed. That costs money too.
Well, and they have like Fall Out Boy doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pretty popular back then.
Mm-hmm.
So they, and think about it. They're not getting paid for this. So their most important things are going to be their tour, making albums for themselves before they do a side project.
Right.
So it's going to be working around their schedule, and it might take 2 months before they can record. Do you know what I mean? Or send you what they have. Like, because they're going to be focused on what they are doing to get paid. Because that's their job. So It's just a little weird that you're going to have it done, complete in a couple weeks, but you have like the biggest bands. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's one thing for Haley, because she can go do that after school or on the weekend. But to have actually like Fall Out Boy doing this doesn't really make sense. Like in this period of time. Like, again, if we had waited like a few months or, the summer, for it to be released, that would have been one thing. But it was just kind of weird.
What if it's already songs they already have out and they're just giving Peyton permission to put them on an album?
Maybe, but again, I just feel like it would be something that's like, I'll get back to you in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Not something because again, if they're touring and stuff, they're busy doing that. They're getting paid to do that. They're not getting paid to do your album.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah, because this album does exist. It's well, I look at it on Apple Music. Released in February 2006. It has 17 or 16 tracks plus one music video. Tyler has a couple, and then they actually have Haley's Halo on there, even though the song didn't come out yet in the show.
Yeah, I actually years ago,
Mhm.
when I first watched One Tree Hill, so back in 2012, my parents bought me the CD.
Oh,
So
okay.
they still had it back. I mean, I don't know where you can get it now because we don't have really CD stores like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, my parents bought me that. So that was like back in 2012. Because I was like, oh, I wonder if this CD is still out there because it's been years. Even
Mhm.
in 2012, this was 6 years before. So, but they did. It was still out there. I don't know if it is now, but it was back then. So I do have the CD somewhere. So it's kind of fun
Mhm.
to like have it. And then when I saw it be printed in the end of the show, this episode, I was like, oh, that's cool because I have a copy.
Mhm. Yeah, I can get it easily on Amazon or other places. And then yeah, so Ellie explains there's some things that she has to do that she can't do here.
Like die,
Mhm.
as
And
Peyton points out.
yeah. And yeah, Peyton asks if this means goodbye, and Ellie just says for now. And then
This is my
Rachel,
thing. It's like you would think that like you'd want to like bond with your daughter and not give it a couple weeks. Like it's very hard because like she's like, oh, like Peyton's my number one, blah, blah. But yet for Peyton, it's like you only hung out with me and stayed with me to do this album, and that's it. Like you're gonna just disappear. Like all my parents disappear.
mhm.
You're no stranger to this now.
Yeah, she just didn't want to see her, die now because she
I
knows it's
know, but I feel like that's for Peyton to decide.
mhm.
Because Peyton could have 2 more days with her, or you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna die in, 2 weeks or whatever, she would have that time
Right.
to ask you questions. What I don't like about Ellie either is when Peyton asks questions,
Mhm.
Ellie just ignores her and is like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, but that's Peyton's life
Mhm.
that she's asking about. She's trying to figure out who you are because you created her. She can't
Right.
ask her dad because her dad doesn't know.
Mhm.
So when she asks questions, it's really annoying because Ellie's just very, what's the word?
I don't know.
It's just annoying. I don't like it. She's definitely not forthcoming with information.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think it would have been, considering what we know what's going to happen later, it would be even more traumatic if Ellie did end up dying in Peyton's room because her room is going to be ruined anyways with other trauma. So I think just a little bit less trauma was better for her, at least in her own home like this.
Yeah, but she could have told her what was going on
Yeah, but Payne figured it out too. She was kind of avoiding it as well.
because when Peyton said, like, you're dying, she basically said no.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my thing is like Peyton could have come and visited you when it was time. Like I don't like that she didn't give Peyton the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because you kept pressuring Peyton. You gotta meet me. I gotta get to know you. For what?
Mm-hmm.
Because then when Peyton wants to, you're like, no, I'm dying and I'm gonna do it on my own. Well, then you shouldn't have come back into Peyton's world. That's my point, is you kept saying, like, you need to get to know me. Well, then she tries.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't even tell her the truth. And again, it should be Peyton's choice. So I didn't like Ellie for that.
Yeah, I think it's just the writers, because like the girls and the drama queens, they constantly change the characters' actions or motives or intentions or whatever. So they just kind of switched it on a dime and made Ellie more like Peyton, who is put distance from herself to other people, and just kind of isolate herself without really meaning to exactly, or at least not regretting it later on. So
Yeah, I just didn't like it.
mm-hmm. And then Rachel is home when Mouth walks in. She asks if he braved the storm for her. He says he
This
braved the
is
storm.
weird.
Hmm.
Like these two? Like she's
Yeah.
inviting Mouth over?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just didn't really care for it. Like another person, another girl using Mouth. It's just, I don't like it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I thought that maybe she was using him at first to get Brooke jealous, but now she kind of realized that she kind of likes him as a person, and a friend is trying to be his friend, but he's just taking it in a completely different context here, which is understandable too, but he's trying to assume as well. And that he asks if her parents don't mind that there's a boy in her room, and she says as long as the if it's under 3 boys, it's fine. And then under 3 beers as well. Next, if he wants one, he says he doesn't drink much, and then gives him a pop instead. Because we know the last time he drank, he ended up smashing Brooke's windshield. And then he takes a can from her and takes a selfie with his phone while her back is turned, as proof that he was in Rachel's room.
Okay, that was
And-
weird and
Mhm.
creepy.
Yeah.
Because again, it's going back to like Brooke violating Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's her room. She should, but I did like that. She was like, no, like, what? Like, because that was the thing. He could have really got in trouble, but, she was like, oh, I'll take a picture with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could have been ugly the other way
Yeah.
around.
Mm-hmm. And then at the cafe, Keith and Karen are using buckets to catch water from the leaks of the roof. Apparently, this is a new thing that's happening because before the roof was fine.
Yeah, and
And
then
then
she blames Lucas and Haley and how they built the golf course
Mhm,
up there. Like she shouldn't have let them, and it's like, huh? Like that was years ago.
mhm.
And Lucas took it down.
Yeah, and I don't see how that would do so much damage that the roof would leak like that.
I know, and it's like, you've had no storm since then.
Mhm.
You're in North Carolina.
Right.
You do know you have hurricanes, right?
Mhm. And then she tells Keith that she told Lucas to stay at Brooke's house or the apartment until the storm has passed. And Keith is surprised that she told Lucas to spend the night with Brooke. She's like
Because
every
you know what they're gonna be doing.
Mhm. Yeah, Karen explains it's not like that. He says it is because single guy, single girl, lots of history. And
Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, right.
Hmm. And then Haley goes to
I have a
see.
question about this. First of all,
Mhm.
so Haley goes to see Nathan, but how does she get there? Because like he says, like the roads are closed, and I'm like, but how is she getting there? She doesn't have a car, and I didn't think she drove because we've never seen Haley drive.
Mm-mm.
So I'm like, how does she get there? Because he talks about the roads. Well, if she doesn't have a car, because remember, the only car that they had was the one Nathan took with him.
Mhm.
He didn't leave it back for Haley. So I'm like, oh. And Peyton and Brooke and Lucas always drive her around. So I'm like, how does she get there? Because think about it, from work, from Karen's Cafe, she would always walk home.
Mhm.
So it didn't make any sense that he's like, oh, the road. Because again, if she walked to his house, like, what does that got to do with the roads? It has to do with the sidewalk.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe she borrowed somebody's bike or had a bike that she could use to get
Okay,
there.
but you could go on the sidewalk. That's what sidewalks are for.
Mhm.
It just made no sense. I'm like, Nathan, you took the car. She has no car.
Mhm. And then she says that they need to talk to him. She needs to talk to him about to say that she's going to Duke. And then inside the house, she says she's been doing research and Duke has an amazing basketball program. The coach is great. And she's, gives all the details. He knows everything, of course.
The scene. Did you notice the continuity issue?
With what?
Haley.
And
It's wardrobe.
oh, I didn't notice that.
Because she's talking and the lights flicker and they turn on and off. And this whole scene.
Oh,
Her scarf is wrapped around her, and then it's loose again, and then it goes back and forth, and I'm like, mm-mm. Like again, why wouldn't anybody be like, listen, we can only do, because you got to do 20 million takes, right? Either do one or the other, not both. Like, whose brainy idea was it to be like, let's have you wear the scarf and it's all tied up and stuff. And then, now we got to redo the take, but let's have you just put the scarf back, just, laying on you. And then, what? One or the other, people? Not, this is too much. And the problem was the scarf was such a huge deal that you're staring at her. And it's like, it's so obvious. And so many people pointed out, it's like, what? Again, it's one thing for like a napkin to be on the wrong side or something, but like this is a major deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't make any sense. Plus, it was just, I guess if you want to say it was entertaining to watch the scarf, because that's what I was watching, not really what was going on. I was just watching the scarf. Man, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's right in front of my face.
Yeah. And then she tells Nathan that he should have this opportunity, and she thinks she could be happy there, especially if she was with him.
Then
and
he said,
Nathan,
I don't want you to. Then she gets all mad and like wants to leave. And then he said, because he wants to go to Stanford.
Right.
Okay.
And then she thinks that it just both him and Lucas take too long to explain what they mean and misleading.
No, I think he was just having fun with it.
Yeah.
He's just standing there like kind of smiling over it.
Yeah, but it annoyed me, like Haley. And then that's when the power goes out with the storm, and Haley asks if this is a good sign or bad sign. And then Rachel's mouth is trying to kiss her, thinking it would be easy in the dark.
Why? Okay, why is he going to kiss her? All she did was take a picture with him. You go from taking a picture to you want to make out with her?
Mm-hmm.
That was weird to me.
I was also surprised that the light from her phone was enough for her to see him, because the light on those phones weren't that strong back then.
I was just surprised that that's the hint that he took.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he says, but she invited him over to watch a movie in her bedroom, and then she offered him a beer, turned off the lights, and then Rachel explains that it's a blackout. That wasn't her.
that was funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he says sorry. Which, thank goodness he did say sorry and not get mad, because so many other guys would, but he still assumed like every other guy.
Yeah, but it was his own fault for assuming.
Yeah. And then, Rachel's laughing because it was so silly that he thought that, because, just he kept adding up dots and connecting them that weren't really there. And then at the apartment, Brooke is trying to find a flashlight, which concerns me because it took her too long to find one. That she should be prepared. Again, they're in North Carolina.
Yeah, you have hurricanes, which takes out power.
Mm-hmm. And then you should have more than one too, especially if there's two people living in the apartment. And then that's when Lucas, is like, we should call Peyton.
It's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was talking about how Ellie's not around.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he was. I guess, yeah. I mean, he guess he's talking to Brooke, Peyton, but not really. So he's not sure where they're at right now. But
it's weird.
Maybe he thought that he left before the storm started.
And again, I think this is another little Easter egg of Lucas and Peyton should be together, because look at who he's thinking of when there's an emergency.
Yeah. So
it's
he says
not Brooke. I mean, he's with Brooke, but
yeah, still thinking of Peyton.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he's worried about her being alone, and Brooke says, sure you are.
I'm sure. Yeah, that was funny. I'm sure you are.
Mm-hmm. And then she finds a flashlight and hits Lucas in the chest with it. He asks why, and she says because he's an ass.
Yeah, you're being an ass.
Mm-hmm. And then
Dan.
Yeah. He's asking, how long will it be until the power's back? They say hours.
He said perfect.
Yeah. And nobody questioned that.
No. I'd be like, why? Everyone wants power back on. Why don't you?
Mm-hmm. And there might be an emergency, that, somebody can't get help because the phones are out because there's no power.
Yeah, but let's be honest. He don't care about people.
Yeah. And then at Peyton's, Ellie lights a candle because at least they're prepared and tells Peyton that it looks like she's got some pull with the woman upstairs talking about the blackout and guess she doesn't really want her to leave. And Ellie asks Peyton if she's prepared, for a long night without power. Peyton says she is because her dad apparently got her one of those giant flashlights that are good to use for hours on end for her 13th birthday when he stopped thinking about what a girl could want. But it's not working, of course. And Ellie asks when she changed or charged the batteries or changed the batteries, and she said when she was 13. So then that's when Ellie decides to stay one more night.
Well, where is she going to go if the roads are closed?
Right. She just ended up turning back around. And then with Nathan and Haley, Nathan is trying to find something for them to eat in the kitchen. And then Haley mentions about eating cereal and watching Saturday cartoons. And Nathan jokes that, that was from like a year ago because they're so young and married now. And Haley asks, how could she be so young and feel so old? And she never thought that she would have this many big questions on her plate by now. And Nathan says maybe this blackout is a sign that they need to deal with everything. And Haley asks, do they have to? Nathan says no, but until the lights come back on, it's her and him in the darkness. And then we see Dan breaking into... when I first watched this episode, I thought he was breaking into Deb's house before I forgot she's gone. Because, why would he be breaking into a house? But of course, it's Keith. And then
he goes, nice. He goes, I need the name of your decorator. Oh,
yeah. Because even with Keith not there, he has to make a comment about something like that.
But, Keith just moved back. I mean, and he's a guy. Do you really think he's going to have, it all decorated?
Well, maybe if Karen did something.
No, but he just came back, and he's been totally invested now with Karen that he's not even home anymore.
Right. And that's why it was so easy for him to break in.
Mm-hmm.
And then back to Rachel's mouth apologizes for kissing her or trying to kiss her. He thought maybe she invited him over too, and then he says he's sorry. Rachel tells him to stop apologizing, and he tells her he doesn't have a lot of experience when it comes to girls in bedrooms or girls at all, really. Even though
it's about Erica Marsh, Erica's brought up again.
And he says, "Look how well that turned out." But that wasn't his fault. That was all her. But anyways, Rachel tells him that he has to be more confident, more sure of himself, which is good advice.
I did not like how she was trying to tell him you got to be mean and drop the nice guy and say something mean to me, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Would you want somebody to say you're fat? I'd be like, get away from me.
Right.
You definitely want. If somebody said you're fat, you definitely wouldn't want to sleep with them. I just didn't like it. I'm like, no, you're supposed to want the person to say you're beautiful, and I didn't like Rachel. Who in the world would think that?
Girl like her, she says he has to pick out a flaw and blow it out of proportion. So the only thing he can think of is saying her neck is long. He could have said a lot meaner than that. He could have said something about her neck being like a giraffe or something, but he said the most nicest thing still. And then takes it back and says it's very pretty though. And then to her
he's
that
who am I kidding?
Yeah. He doesn't want to be mean. It's stupid. And Rachel asks if he's calling her stupid, and he starts panicking, saying no. Rachel says, touches him up, putting a finger to his lip, saying if he is getting sexier by the minute. So I think Rachel just has one, either no respect for herself to let guys be like that with her, or she just maybe has a degrading kink. I don't know. Back at the apartment, Lucas lets Brooke know that they can't start a fire because the wood's soaked. And but does the apartment even have a chimney?
I don't know.
That was my question.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah. So then Lucas has had to mention that he would use a flashlight, but since it's broke because she lost her mind and clobbered it with him, he can't.
Well, it was funny, Lucas.
And then still clueless, as usual, he asks what happened about that anyways, what was that about? She's, insulted that he would ask that. And, he says he's sorry for dinner because that's what he can only think of that is the problem. The dinner got ruined, and she says the dinner she was making him with her stupid apron and stupid pie. And she gets mad, and so Lucas says he'll start a fire, and he just has to find something to burn. So that's when Brooke says, why don't you start with this, holding up one of the letters he wrote to her. And then he doesn't...
I did. I mean, it's finally out there that, he wrote the same thing that Peyton.
Yeah.
you're my forever. And she's like, yeah, it sounded pretty damn good to me. Then, I realized it was, you wrote that same thing to Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep. Yep. So she storms out, and he thinks she's
which
crazy.
is
out
funny
there.
because like you would think that you'd write something different to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you would think so, but sometimes that's not the case. And then outside in the pouring rain, Lucas follows Brooke apologizing about saying the same words to her, like he said to Peyton in her letter. Lucas tells her that this is ridiculous, and Brooke says, ridiculous. I found the letter in your sad box to Peyton in your closet. Dear Peyton, blah, blah, blah. You're mine forever. Love, Lucas. And he only says he doesn't even remember writing that. That doesn't help him. I don't know why he said that.
Well, and why would he say he doesn't even remember? It was what, a couple months ago? I mean, like, because their timelines, their timelines are so short that, it doesn't make any sense, like, why you wouldn't remember that. Plus, like, let's be honest, like, Peyton is the love of his life, the one that he, remember when he was, in 7th grade, he wanted to, like, talk to her, and it's like, if that's the person that you idolize, like, that you want to be with, you're going to remember writing something to them. Even if you don't send it, like, is what he said, like, well, I didn't send it. Right. And she's like, well, either did I didn't send my letters to you, but they still meant something. I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then, so he says that he knows she feels vulnerable about what Peyton wrote to him, and he had to put his hands on her, so she uses her arms to make him let go of her, and tells him that she's not his recycling bin. He has the nerve to say she's psychotic, but she keeps walking. He follows her. And then I'm kind of surprised they didn't just show the full scene instead of breaking it up like they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this whole episode was choppy.
Well, this scene to me only. The other ones I didn't really think of because they didn't seem as important. This was,
it was like back and forth. I'm like, okay.
And then Sophia had a little fun fact here is that when Brooke says that she's not his recycling bin, she actually said something else originally in the scene, but then they had her say a completely different line later in ADR. So I thought that was kind of funny because I didn't notice. But oops. And then at Peyton's, Ellie is going through Peyton's music collection and finds a record she really likes. And they talk about Led Zeppelin and about their favorite songs, like their happy song, their sad song. And Payne says that her sad song is Celebration by Cool in the Game because it was playing in the hospital when her mom died. And then back at Nathan's, he's looking over at Haley. She thinks it's because she had a second bowl of cereal. And to defend herself, she said she was really hungry. And Nathan says that he was just remembering her hair because she wore it that way the first day she tutored him. So this, now that I've seen Dawson's Creek, obviously mirrors the episode where, Peyton's telling Joey that he remembers the way she looks. Yeah. Oh, Peyton? Yeah. I meant, what did I say? What was I supposed to say?
You said Peyton mentioned a Joey.
Oh, I meant Pacey. They both start with P, so.
No, what is Peyton and what is Pacey? Okay.
Well, I'm getting them all mixed up, but yeah, so I meant Nathan, Haley, Pacey, and Joey. Yeah, so those scenes are parallel to each other, with the guy noticing what the girl was wearing on a certain day. And Nathan knows every detail from her hair to the poncho she wore.
So cute. Like both scenes.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. This is why Pacey and Nathan are my favorite. Because I'm like Lucas, who can't even remember what he said to one girl and the next.
Yep. Those are great parallels there. The difference in that.
No wonder why I love both couples so much. Like, because they resemble each other.
Yep. He even remembers her shoes because she wore them the day they got stuck in the DMV for 5 hours. When? So they were, when they waited to change her license with his last name on it. And, she's just wanting to know every detail now.
So keep in mind, especially back then, it took a couple weeks for your new license to come in. And I'm like, by that point, she was already on tour.
Yeah, probably.
I was like, she got her new license in the mail and they had to ship it to her on tour.
That would actually be funny, yeah.
Which is funny because if Nathan had received that, wouldn't he have thrown it away? I don't know, like something petty. Right. It was just kind of funny. I'm like, because it doesn't just happen, in a couple days like it might now. It took weeks.
Yeah. And we were just talking about we never saw Haley drive, but yet she was changing her license. So.
And her last name, yeah, kind of weird. And again, right from the start, when they got married, it was all ugly, like what we saw. So I'm like, when was these happy moments that they had?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. If the writers didn't add in these moments, then their relationship probably wouldn't have looked as good as it did.
They'd have been doomed.
Mm-hmm. And then at the cafe, Karen says she can't believe she didn't notice this. It's her first dollar that she earned from the cafe, and it's framed.
He gave it to her.
Mm-hmm. And then, because he bought the first cup of coffee that morning, and she mentioned how she had, Lucas on one hip, a tray on the other.
Okay, so she opened up the cafe when she was like 19.
Yeah,
or
basically.
20 and had like a baby or a 1 or 2-year-old, because she was 18 when she had Lucas. So she was like 19 or 20 and because you can still have a 2-year-old on your hip. But I'm like, you were 19 or 20 when you opened up the cafe? Who does that?
Yeah, like where did she get the money to invest in that?
Because it's not like Deb, who had family money, where they're like, well, we'll just, loan it, give it to you, and you just open up the shop or, the dealership. It's like, what?
Yeah, because she said her parents thought she was crazy, as did the rest of the town except him.
But she was so young.
Did he invest in the business, or I can see Whitey investing, maybe. I don't know. Somebody had to have helped her. We just don't know who, and they don't give a backstory about that, of course, but
yeah, that threw me off. I was like, you were 19 or 20 and opened up your own cafe, because we thought she had worked with somebody for years and like 5 years ago opened it, but she did it when she was 19 or 20. It's crazy.
I think, I don't know if this is my memory bad, but I feel like I might have said that I thought maybe to get the cafe, she had worked there when it was whatever business beforehand, like a different cafe. She worked with, the owner, and the owner liked her so well enough that he or they gave her the cafe after they retired or passed or something. That would make
19.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's so young, but yeah, at least it would make more sense how she got it.
Naive then. Be like, at 19, you can have your own place.
Well, maybe it was, I mean, it happened slower, but maybe it's kind of a situation like with Lorelai and Gilmore Girls, because she went to the inn, and, she had baby Rory with her, and she had nowhere to go, and she needed a job. So the woman who owned the inn, took her in as an employee, and then eventually, made her manager of the inn. So maybe it's kind of that situation, just happened like 10 times faster, maybe. I don't know.
When she was 19. Here you go.
Because Lorelai was 16 too when she first got to the inn about. So yeah, so a lot faster with Karen. And then she says she'll never forget what he said, and he even quotes himself, saying, anyone who thinks this is more than you can handle is less than the kind of person you need in your life. And Karen is surprised he remembers that. Keith says, of course he remembers. He stayed up the night before trying to figure out what he was going to say. And then he asks, how about a kiss instead of a coffee? And then back to Dan and Keith's house, walking around until he steps on something. So how did that frame get on the floor in the first place? Like, did it happen from the wind through the window he broke?
I think when he broke in, because the window was wide open then.
Or he could have knocked it over when he broke the window, but yeah. I saw that was random. He just was walking, and suddenly it's right there on the floor.
Well, what I find strange is that Keith would have a picture of him and Dan. Somebody that I would think about this. Somebody that you would want to kill, right? Because he did. Keith planned this whole thing of how he was going to kill him, right? And yet you have a picture of the person. If I have a picture of somebody I truly hate and I want out of my life, not even off this earth, but just out of my life, I'm not going to go and have a picture of them in my house. It's like, what?
Yeah, even of the good times, yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if it's when you guys were kids. No, what, you wanted him dead. You planned to kill him yourself, and you're gonna have a picture of him?
Yeah, maybe it would have been made a little more sense if the picture and in the frame had been of him and Lucas, and then maybe behind that picture was a picture of him and Dan when they were kids. Maybe like it's as if he like covered up the past, but at the same time, it's still knows that it's still there, and he's not completely letting go of it. Like maybe he had like a small part of him think that Dan was still good or could be good like he was as a kid. I don't know.
I
So
just
many,
thought that was weird. I was
yeah,
like,
so many
if
different
I want
things going
somebody
on
out of
here.
my life, I'm
That makes
definitely
sense.
not gonna have a picture of them
Mhm.
up
Yeah.
there for anybody to see if they come over. That's just not gonna happen.
hmm Yeah, because I was gonna say if Jules had seen that picture, maybe she would have realized sooner.
How
No, never
evil
mind.
Dan is.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to make a connection there, but then it didn't work. Yeah. So then Dan remembers the last time there was a storm when they were kids. Dan was yelling for Keith because he was scared. Keith comforts him and gives him the picture frame, the same picture frame, saying that so he'll always be with him, keep him safe. He promises. Then back in present day, Dan notices there's a key taped to the frame behind the picture. Um, yeah, so they could have put two pictures in there with the key behind it, but yeah, so that was just set up for him to find the key. I feel like they could have maybe put the key in a different place. So it would have made more sense that he would find it without putting a random picture there of them. But yeah. Like, I don't know, because he was already snooping, so he was going to find something eventually anyways. He just came upon this by accident. So,
And the fact that you would just have it out so easily
hmm
is also weird.
yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think something like that's behind a picture in a frame, but yeah, still weird.
Well, you wouldn't think that the person would just have it out there either.
hmm And then back with Lucas and Brooke in the rain, Lucas says she's not psychotic. She's a little disturbed, maybe, trying to apologize in a weird way like that. She asks if he thinks this is funny. He says no. She's just trying to sabotage them. And for any reason she can, so she can end it, so she doesn't have to worry about getting hurt again. And Brooke says, she's just back to the letter, as she should be. The same words, the same exact words. Lucas says he never sent that letter. Oh, yeah, you said that before, yeah. So, yeah, Brooke says that she didn't send hers
So,
either, but it still meant something.
yeah, that's what I said. But what I can't figure out for Brooke is like we're going back to the beginning of like Peyton or about Peyton like being involved, even though Peyton doesn't want to be. It's like Brooke, you're never gonna get over what happened. Even in season 2, at the end of season 2, when she wanted to tell Lucas how she felt, but Peyton was around still, she didn't like it then. And it's like you weren't even together then. Now you're together, and Peyton is still always going to be topic. Like you're never going to get away from that. So you just have to let this relationship go, because if the person is always going to be a problem, like Peyton in it, whether she means to be or not, like Peyton doesn't even know that she is, that they're having problems because of her. And it's like, if you can't get over that and trust them, it's never going to work. So for all those Brooke and Lucas fans that are like, their end game, how? When Peyton is always going to be involved one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense that you would want Brooke to be with Lucas when he's still holding out hope, whether he knows it or not, for Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want that for her?
Right.
It doesn't
And
make any sense. And
mm-hmm.
so for Brooke, let him go.
Yeah.
Because look at you're beating yourself up. You're not letting yourself be vulnerable, like truly, like you used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like all because you don't want it to happen again. But if you don't want it to happen again, probably shouldn't be in this relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Lucas is Joey and Brooke is Dawson.
Mm-hmm. Just
Yeah.
let them be happy.
Mm-hmm. Brooke's trying to, have him defend himself by like saying something bad about Peyton, but he can't because she's his friend and her best friend. She says, it's okay. You can say bad things about her.
And
Lucas says,
that's the worst thing too, is like it's your
yeah.
best friend.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
And she says she wouldn't put a guy before Peyton. So
yeah.
And then Lucas says the truth is he cares about Peyton, and Brooke asks what the difference is then, and he says the difference is
I
because he
love you.
wants to be with her, not Peyton.
But
But
he loves Peyton too.
Yeah.
It's weird because he says the difference is I love you, and it's like, but you love Peyton. What?
Yeah. And Brooke says, she needs to know why. And Lucas says, list the reasons why, of things that he's noticed about her.
Well, and think about this too. When he put it in that letter to Peyton, like, you're my forever, don't you think that he also put in there, I love you? Like,
Yeah,
if you're gonna say to somebody, you're my forever, you're probably also gonna put in there, I love you at some point. So I'm like, the fact that you would only say you love Brooke is a complete lie. But we know this is Lucas. This is what he does best: is tell one person that he loves them, but really he is loving other people. Like, that's just what Lucas does. He can't ever just tell the truth of, like, I love you as a person, but not somebody I want to be with. But also can't tell the person that he wants to be with the truth.
Right.
Because think about season 5. He does the same thing. So he just can't ever tell the truth.
Nope. And then, he says that he's given 2 exactly the same embarrassing speeches in his entire life, and they've both been with her.
Yeah.
And that's to mean something. And
but not really.
Yeah. I mean, Lucas probably doesn't even know about Nathan and Haley's kiss in the rain, but he probably thought that's how this was gonna go. And but I mean, it did, but didn't last long. But didn't last forever. And
it wasn't he says that romantic.
Yeah, with
Nathan
all the yelling
and Haley's was like hot and sexy. This one was just like, like a cover up. Because again, they're only putting a Band-Aid on this relationship. They're not fixing anything. They're not. It's only a Band-Aid. Yeah, this is the whole thing.
Right.
It's not this. There's no solution to this relationship except for it ending. Because Brooke needs to be with somebody that she can totally trust. And that's not Lucas. No matter what he does, it's never going to change. Even if she moves far, far away, like we see, it doesn't change his feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, so he goes on to say his romantic line about if she needs to hear why he loves her, he can go on all night. So that's when Brooke kisses him, and then back at Rachel's. This is kind of both Haley and Nathan, both the Neely scene and then the Brooke and Lucas scene, reminded me of the rain kissing in the rain scene also as a notebook. So I wonder if that's where they got it from too. But back at Rachel's, Mal tells her that he gets, about being confident, but he's still trying to figure out why she invited him over. And she says, she thought they were going to watch a movie. He says, right, but their French, why their friendship, why him? She says, because he's more honest and comfortable about who he is than most other guys at school. And Mouth asks if it's that or because she thought it would make Brooke jealous. And she says, no offense.
I think it was to make Brooke jealous.
Yeah. But she didn't even know that he was over at her house, and she was busy with Lucas, so it was really a waste of time for both of them, really.
I think she was hoping Mouth would say to Brooke, "How's that Rachel?" Like, just think about it. He's with a beautiful, girl. Like, you don't think that a boy is gonna say that to someone else, of course, or he would say it to Lucas, and Lucas would somehow it would get to Brooke. It's like that's what she was hoping for. Of like Mouth spreads it,
right? And then she says that she doesn't need him to make Brooke jealous, and he says great, he doesn't get that because there was something kind of cool about feeling like the pawn between 2 girls. And, that's just a way for him to say that he doesn't respect himself either. And then Rachel says for him to let her help him, give him the benefit of her expertise and teach him how to become one of the guys the elite girls drool over.
I did like when he said, like, by being mean, I'm not that guy and I don't want to be. And I'm like, good for you, because again, you don't want someone saying mean things to you. So
yeah.
Especially if it's about your body image. Like, girls are already insecure about that and then you add more to it,
Mhm.
no. Like, they're definitely not gonna feel good and comfortable around you.
Right. Yeah, so he says that one of these days he's going to meet a girl who really loves him. Maybe she won't be what she calls hot, Rachel, but he'll think she's beautiful and he'll tell her so. He won't be mean to her because he won't have to play games with her. He'll just be the guy that she can always count on, and that'll be enough. And she'll
I
be
like
elite
that
for
part.
him. Hmm. Yeah, especially knowing who he ends up with later on. And then at Peyton's house, Ellie asks if Peyton is okay, and she says not really, because what are they doing? You know, they've been living together for 3 weeks, and all they talked about is music, the album, and business.
Yep. And then Ellie wants to leave. It's like, so I did like Peyton in this because it's like, it's the truth. Remember,
Mhm.
Ellie was all, I need to get to know you. And it's like, but you haven't really talked, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what Peyton brings up.
Right.
Because again, for
Mm.
Peyton, why'd you come back in my life?
Mhm.
We're not even talking personal business. We're talking, you know, actual business and music and stuff. Like, it's nothing personal. So
Mhm.
what was the point of Ellie coming back?
Right.
You know?
And yeah, and Peyton does talk about this on her podcast, the episode she posted after this day that she or the weeks that she had with Ellie. Because she actually took a break because she was working on the album with Ellie, and then she came back after, Ellie died and said that she did regret not asking Ellie the, more personal questions like what breakfast did she eat with her grandparents, her parents, her grandparents, Payne's grandparents, and like was she in love with her birth dad because she doesn't know any of those
But
things.
how could she? Ellie would have just slammed her by saying, I'm not talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
As she did anything Peyton brought up, she just shut it down. So it
Yeah.
would have been the same exact thing of, because there was something Peyton didn't ask her, and she shut it down, and it was like, that's going to be the whole thing, is Ellie just doesn't say anything about her life, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
wrong because she came, like, you come from her, so Ellie needs to tell her something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all Ellie tells Peyton is not to be afraid. Every song has a coda, a final movement. Whether it fades or crashes away, every song ends. Is that not any reason to not to enjoy the music? And that's nice. But unless it's a song you like can't find anywhere, you can always like hit rewind, and listen to the song all over again as many times as you want, and not like this with their time. So
Yeah,
I
because
don't
they're
know
talking
why she
about
used,
death.
yeah, that metaphor there. And Payne responds to Ellie that it doesn't mean that she can't, not want it to end. And Ellie says to Payne that she's had more life-changing events in the first 17 years of her life than she'd wish on anyone. And unfortunately for Payne, it's only going to get worse from here. But Ellie
So
tells her,
it's kind of like Andy, remember? She's like, oh, I'm good.
"You're right, yeah,
Remember, Andy's like, well, I had
mhm,
like the hardest times of my life. And
mhm,
it's like, I'm good now. And it's like, what? That's
mhm,
just life.
yeah,
Sadly, you had the raw end of the deal
mhm,
and had bad
mhm,
cards growing up, but it doesn't just mean everything is fairy tale from here. And
mhm,
it's the same thing with Peyton. It's like you had, a bad start at life, but it doesn't
mhm,
mean it gets better. Parts
right,
get better, but you're also gonna have the hard times.
mhm. Yeah, it's just a matter of time, matter
It's
of
life.
odds."
Yeah.
Mhm. So Ellie tells Payne that she's got the surviving part down. She wants her to focus more on the living. And Payne says sometimes surviving is about all the living she can handle. And Ellie says, she doesn't buy that for a second. And then tells Payne if she keeps this up, hiding in her art and sadness, she's going to miss out on the truth. Miss out because the truth is there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just life. And then, Ellie pulls Payne off the bed and out of her room and says they are going into life. So back at Nathan's, they're laying in front of the fireplace. That's apparently there now in the apartment. And
And
with
what? It's at
and
Nathan's house.
oh, I meant the apartment, yeah.
Wait, what? What are
Um
you talking about?
yeah, I got confused. It's at the apartment. Oh no, I'm sorry, Nathan's house.
Nathan's house. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's not
Okay.
at Nathan's house.
Oh yeah, I was mixing it up with Lucas and Brooke, yeah. So in front of the fireplace there, Haley is resting her head on Nathan's stomach and tells him that she likes that he's telling her all these stories about how much he remembers. But now she feels like she has to be super cute 24/7.
I did like when he said that, like, all we need basically is like one night to just have fun together
Mm-hmm.
and not talk about the hard things. Because it's true. Because if all they sit there, like, it becomes like business sort of, is like, okay, when are we getting back together? When's this? Like, it's like just have fun and like see what it brings you, you know? Because it might lead to other things. So it's like just be in the moment sort of thing and not talk about the hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is true. Like they
Right.
just need to have fun
Mm-hmm.
and be together.
Right.
And then that's when, you know, he talks about, or she talks about how he she knows he wasn't proud of her to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was like, what? And then he runs outside. Oh my God. In the pouring rain.
Mm-hmm. Yep, going to his car to get the newspaper clippings that he saved. But I did before that. I did like how he finally admitted that it was wrong for him to give her the ultimatum about between him and the tour.
Yeah, but I didn't believe him.
Oh, I
When
did.
when he said that, you know, it shouldn't have been one or the other. And I was like, but you were for sure on this whole train of it being one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I believed him that he feels that way now. Yeah, but not back then. And then yeah, so he had a box of the clippings in his car, so he was probably already going
This
to tell
doesn't make
her.
any sense. The Nathan that we saw in season 2,
Mm-hmm.
not this Nathan that we see in season 3, where he has all these articles and clippings of her on tour. Nathan
Mm-hmm.
wanted nothing to do with her on her
Mm-hmm.
tour. And what?
Right.
Like, all this is news
Mm-hmm.
to me. I'm like, Nathan didn't want to watch her on TV. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
He anytime she'd call, like, it's like, what? But you were so proud of her. What? Because the Nathan that we saw was not proud of her.
Right.
It wasn't, I'm so happy she's on TV. I'm so happy she's doing this. I'm so happy I went to go see. Nothing. There was none of this crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's why all of this, I'm like, it doesn't add up to the season 2 Nathan.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't like it because I'm like, that's not what we saw, Nathan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're having their notebook moment now because Haley kisses him, but he pulls away to mention the clippings will get ruined if they don't grab them. But then she tells him that he doesn't need them because he has her, and they kiss. He picks her up and slowly lays her down in the car as they continue to kiss in the rain. And then we transition to Keith and Karen also kissing, but inside the cafe. And then transition to Lucas and Brooke kissing in bed, and then back to Nathan and Haley, just everybody's making out. And then to Peyton and Ellie, though, they're in her car with the top down the road. I guess they just went for a drive in the road. I thought they were going to go somewhere when I first watched this, but no, it's just driving in the rain, which could make them sick, but or at least ruin Payne's car, if anything.
Also, I thought the roads were closed.
Yeah, I guess Ellie must have got past that. Maybe she drove on the grass to get around it. I don't know.
Because it's just kind of weird. I'm like, if the roads are closed, nobody can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Except for if you're walking.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're just laughing and having a good time. And then back at Rachel, she tells Mal she's impressed, was impressed by his speech. And Mal says he was just being honest. The last part would have worked better if he, could leave, because that would have been a great exit line. But he knows enough. He's watched enough CNN to know you're supposed to stay put until, get the all clear. And then Rachel says they're stuck with each other and she's talked out. So, what else there is to do? There's nothing to say. But they could kiss, and he laughs thinking she's joking until she gives him a look saying she's not. And then Rachel, with words, says, "I'll pass the time," and Mouse says they could do that. So, he's into it now. So Rachel goes to kiss him, but then he pulls away and says he's not going to. And Rachel tells him, "Good, he's playing hard to get." And Mouse says, "It's not like that. It's easier in the dark, but the lights are going to come back on and they'll go back to being who they really are." And she doesn't respond, and he keeps saying, kissing might be whatever to her, but to him it means something. He'll wake up tomorrow wanting to do it all over again. And he doesn't think she'll feel the same. So on the day that it changes, when she wakes up and has to call him, then he'll kiss her.
He was definitely right about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's when the lights go back on. And he says
Perfect,
that's his cue.
Perfect timing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but Rachel tries to stop him, but he says it's cool. He'll just see her later. So then, this scene could be very controversial or more of I mean, the water ruined everything already, but it still would be a health code violation for them to be on the couch in the cafe like that. And then they conveniently were also wrapped in separate pieces of sheets so they could move like that. So I don't know. That was planned a little too well.
Well, and where did
unrealistic.
they get all that? Like, she just
Yeah.
has all that at the cafe.
Mm-hmm. And then in Dan's Merrill office, he looking up Keith in the City of Tree Hill database and finds that Keith has a security deposit box. And then back at Peyton's, her and Ellie drive off for the most part. And Ellie tells Peyton if she gets a code, she can tell her dad it's on her. And Peyton says it'll be worth it because tonight was amazing. And then they have that moment of, Ellie brushing Peyton's hair. And, then Payne tells Ellie that it's nice, but she was thinking about the stuff that she said about living life and jumping at the opportunity, not being afraid. So then she brings up the guy that she loved, but she let him go now, and she thinks it was a mistake, but it's too late. And Ellie says it's not too late because she learned that with her, and tells Payne that she's sorry she missed 17 years, but she wouldn't give it back the last 3 weeks for the world. And Ellie also tells Payne that she's come to know Payne that she deserves, whatever she wants. She deserves to be happy as an artist, friend, daughter, as her daughter. And then, they have that moment, and Payne has a little tear fall down her cheek, and Ellie keeps holding her. So, do you think Payne was talking about Lucas or Jake? Because if it could have, I feel like it was Jake, but maybe she was kind of talking about Lucas without realizing.
I think it was Jake because he's the one that left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because her and Lucas didn't really be able to get together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think right now Lucas is definitely thinking of Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's truly thinking of him yet. She will, but I think it's Jake right now.
Yeah, you just think the writers would have put like something like for him, like they did about her in that scene, but they didn't really. And then back with Nathan and Haley, they're in bed after having sex. Suddenly, Nathan tells her to stop with a smile on his face, then explains that whatever she's worried about, just to stop. And Haley asks, how does he know she's worried? He didn't even open his eyes, and he says he doesn't need to open his eyes to see her, to know what's going on with her.
Oh, about Ellie, when she says that she is sorry she missed, the 17 years of Peyton's life, I was like, and yet you're leaving again?
Mm-hmm.
Again, this doesn't sound like somebody that truly cares about her, because again, if you say I'm sorry, but then you just go and disappear again, how is that your words mean nothing? So I didn't like that she said that, because I'm like, then you're just leaving again. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Again, if you truly are sorry, you'd be there, even if you're dying. Because again, it's all about you, Ellie.
Yeah, well, it really depends on the situation, because I have seen a parent slowly fade away, and it's not easy. So I can see why Ellie was leaving.
Yeah, but then in 10 years, 20 years, Peyton might regret that she wasn't there. And you don't have regrets. So
yeah. And then
and it's not like Ellie was really a parent where you'd be like, oh my God, like all these memories are flooding back. She's still a stranger to her.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so then Haley and Nathan have that moment of Nathan knowing what's going on with Haley without even having to look at her.
Yeah, I did. So I did like when she said that she was thinking of leaving because she doesn't want to wake up and him not being there. Yeah, because that was just creepy that Dan walked in.
Right.
Also, Dan was spending this whole time he was supposed to be at the mayor's office, but then he went to Keith's house. So it's just weird. Like, he's just all over the town, because then he goes to the bank. So he's all over the place.
Right.
So he's definitely not home, but he might be home tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but Nathan tells Haley that he's not going anywhere. He promised it. Well, he didn't promise, but it sounds like he was promising her. And then later on, Peyton wakes up in her bed to find Ellie had packed her things and is about to head out. And Payne says, every great song ends sometimes, right? And Ellie says for her to call her when she gets a CD, she'll come see her. They can listen to it together. Even though, Ellie knows that's not going to happen, but says it anyway. And then Ellie tells Payne that, she came back to Tree Hill to make sure she had a good life. And she made sure she had a great one. And Payne gets up from her bed to hug Ellie. Payne cries and tells Ellie she doesn't want her to go. So yeah, in this moment, that's when I think Ellie should have decided, she should stay. If Payne's telling her that with her own words, instead of just assuming that's what is best.
And again, it should be up to Peyton, because when Ellie goes, she's not going to have the regrets because she's going to die. Peyton will have the regrets, and she's only 17. You don't want her to have the regrets for all those years. I mean, are you kidding me? That's terrible to her, and especially if you love her,
right?
That's just rude.
Yeah, and Ellie tells Payne, her words are going to break her heart, and they have a moment, and Ellie tells Payne they'll see each other again someday. She promises.
If her words are going to break your heart, then you shouldn't do it.
Right. And then Haley wakes up to find once again Nathan isn't right next to her, but instead he's in the middle of the room hanging up the newspaper clippings to dry from the rain the other day.
Shirtless.
Yeah, but my
That's
thing
what
was
I saw.
right. Well, my thing that I noticed was that those newspaper clippings should not exist at all. They should have just completely dissolved from that water. They shouldn't have been salvageable enough to hang up and still actually look right and readable. So that was my thing. And then
well, it's just not believable that he even has any of those clippings.
Yeah.
Because somebody that was so mad. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 2 reasons why he shouldn't have them. And then Nathan tells her that, the tour was a big part of her life. She deserves to have something to remember it by, besides all the bad memories. And she goes over to hug him and says, thank you.
Because even when she comes back in season 3, he was so mad, never acted like he was proud of her, right? Never.
Right.
Now he's, in this episode, he's proud of her and he has all these clippings of her.
Right.
Again, somebody that, because remember, he also says in the same episode of like, I was proud of you. I shouldn't have made the ultimatum. When you came back from High Flyers and realized that, right? You still didn't want to speak to her. You still had that same attitude that you had before you left. It's like, now you're saying I shouldn't have done that. When did you think this? Because this whole time from season 2 and season 3, you have been on the hate train of Haley. It just doesn't add up to this episode of I was proud of you. I still am proud of you. I shouldn't have given you the ultimatum. Even when you came back, even when start of school year, you were still an ass to her. It doesn't add up to I'm proud of you. Somebody that's proud of you wouldn't treat you like shit when you come back. Even when they had that date, right? The double date.
Yeah.
He was still an ass to her then. Like, again, somebody that's proud of you and actually has a moment to be alone with you. Wouldn't he have said then?
Right.
I don't know. It's just none of this adds up to this episode. All of his behavior.
Yeah, he keeps switching up on Haley, like, with working with Chris again, and then the whole birth control thing. He's just keeps changing his mind of what he wants, to have with Haley or how he wants to treat Haley. So yeah, it's confusing.
I will say season 3, it's flip-floppy when it comes to Nathan. Like if I was Haley, I'd be a little like,
right.
Because there's a deleted scene coming up.
Oh, okay.
That I saw. And it doesn't make any sense to what happens. And I know that's why they took it out, was because if they had put it in the episode, it doesn't add up to what happens. So they take it out. But because I know it exists, I'm like, no. Like given how it was all supposed to be in the same episode, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But either does what happened in season 1. Remember, they have a fight about porn and then they get married. So 2 very different big things, life-changing things, and yet, you know, it just seems like that's Nathan and Haley's relationship is like thinking about it is like it's always the big crazy scary moments all happen in one, even if they're totally different. And like this.
Yeah, at least lately Haley's been consistent that she does want to be with Nathan.
No, she's consistent. He's not consistent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. At least one of them is.
But even in season 1, she was consistent. But it's just Nathan is just I don't know. Like I love him, but his words just don't add up to his behavior.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to send me that deleted scene so I can see too.
I'll send it to you when we get to the episode, just so it doesn't throw you off from the next couple episodes.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's not the next couple, so I don't want to send it to you early.
Right, okay. Yeah, so then she asks, what about college? And he says they'll apply for both and they'll wait and see.
I'm sorry, I still want to know how he's getting into Stanford.
All right.
Because it's even scary that she can get into Stanford, given that she's missed. I feel like Stanford would be like, you missed school. No.
Yeah, well, she was supposed to be like an A student, so.
But she said she's behind. She has to do like, I don't even know how she's even getting through. Like, is she doing a pacey move and has to do summer school? Like, it doesn't really add up to how she's going to pass.
Right.
So I mean, that's what I mean is like for Stanford, it'd be like, why do you have to make up these classes?
I mean, I think the tour could be counted as an extracurricular activity, but
I feel like they wouldn't care because like Stanford seems to me like Yale and stuff where they care more about school than they care about your whatever you do on the side.
Yeah, that would probably make more sense if she was going to a school for music. Yeah,
like for for like Nathan, it'd be like, what do I care about your basketball? I care about your academics more than I care about your sports. Like, I feel like that would be a Stanford because it's like the same thing of like Yale and Harvard is they care about academics. They don't care about what you do.
And then at school, Rachel catches up with Mouth happily in the hallway. She mentions she hasn't seen him in a couple of days.
Brooke is watching. This is what I mean. Is like Rachel did win because, Brooke's watching and not happily.
Yeah. Mouth's, different now because he's being like all confident, maybe a little too confident, saying the girls are always trying to kiss him, sometimes cheerleaders, mostly models. It happens. It's no big deal. He doesn't blame her.
But I will say for Brooke, it is a little sad for Brooke because like her world is crashing down. Like somebody that she cared about, which was Mouth, and that she truly considered a friend, that he's always there. That relationship is crashing along with her love life. So, and her parents aren't there. She's not really close right at this moment to Peyton. It's like her whole world is crashing down. You kind of feel bad for her a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though she did it to herself.
Right. But yeah, so Mouth was the one that was switching here because he was trying to be mean to Rachel, saying that her sweatpants make her butt look big because that was a bad thing back then. Now it's a good thing. But then he apologized.
If somebody said it to me, I would not find that attractive. I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Yeah, I keep saying sorry to Rachel about making comments about her butt, good and bad. And Rachel tells him rule number 1, never to apologize. But, he should not follow that rule. He should apologize when it's necessary. And then that's when Brooke sees them. So Rachel makes eye contact with her, like, I'm taking your friend or, whoever he is to you. She even puts her hand on his shoulder as they walk down the hall until they're out of sight. So that was a big move for Rachel. And then Ellie's at home listening to her music and she starts getting weaker. Elsewhere, multiple copies of the album is being made. Then by nighttime, Ellie ends up on the floor. And then we see the copies of the album in their cases with the artwork that Ellie put together and gets packaged in boxes.
Didn't you like this? How, because it's not, because on other shows, it would have been, well, this isn't real. Like, it's real to the show, but it's not real to real life. And here it's cool because we're seeing them get packaged and stuff, the CDs, and they actually do get sold in real life.
Right. Yeah,
I
that was
liked
cool.
that part of like, oh, that's actually real. Because again,
Mhm.
a lot of it usually is just TV.
Right.
Like if they had a Haley James album, that would be fake.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
it's like, no, this is real. It's a real CD. You can go and buy it.
Yeah, like the playlist that Peyton makes later on for her kid, I think that's out there too somewhere. I don't know if it was made by WB or whoever or by a fan, but I know that's out there. So when we get to that season, I'll want to look that up. But yeah, so in the morning, Ellie is still on the floor looking at the picture of her and Peyton in the hospital when she was born. She puts the picture in her jacket, and we know why she did that, so Peyton would find it. And Peyton receives the box of albums. She drives to show Ellie them, all happy, excited to show her. Then, of course, as motorcycle, as we know, the worst thing a child can experience is either seeing their parent die or, in Peyton's case, finding their parent dead. Peyton walks into Ellie's house, apparently having a key, with the box of CDs in hand. She tells Ellie she has them and they look great when she notices Ellie's record player had finished playing a record, but the needle was still going. That's when Payne knows that something is wrong with how quiet the house is. And then Payne walks into Ellie's room where she sees her dead. We only see Ellie's hand over the bed. Payne drops the box of CDs and drops to her knees, crying, of course. So this would have been a great time for her dad to have been around. So maybe they both could have been there. So she wouldn't have been alone, to see this scene.
He's never around.
I know, just out of all times to be there for her, this definitely would have been one of them. And then the scene ends with a white fade out, which you never really see too much in shows. And then at school, Brooke sees Peyton and walks over to hug her, letting her cry on her shoulder and signals Lucas. Yeah.
Okay, you get mad in the same episode. You get mad that Lucas still might have feelings for Peyton, and then boom, you're gonna let him come over and hug her and comfort her.
Yeah.
How is that? I can't.
Yeah, and then we know too that this moment, Brooke's being there for Peyton, but then it turns around because she used Ellie against Peyton, which is really bad. But yeah, so I just hate watching this scene knowing that it's not really doesn't feel genuine because we know what's gonna happen later with the situation.
But also Lucas.
Yeah.
It's for him, it's genuine. He's genuine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's getting Brooke's permission to be there for Peyton.
Exactly. So when it comes back in Brooke's face, listen, you told me I could go comfort her. Oh my God. But also, who's the one that's there for her again? Lucas. Where the heck's Jake? So all these Jake and Peyton fans, where is he?
Right.
And again, when Ellie came into Peyton's life, Lucas was there. Lucas was watching out for her, that whole summer, remember?
Right.
And here it is. She died. Who's there? Lucas.
Right.
It's like, this is why she needs to be with Lucas, because her big sad moments happen when Lucas is there, or he's around there for her. Remember, even in season 1 when she was running the red lights, it's like Lucas was there. Jake was not. So, and he's the one that found out why she runs red lights. Brooke didn't even know that. So it's like, again, the person that's there for her is Lucas. So all these Jake and Peyton fans, and I think you are one.
Yeah.
He's not here.
Yeah, when they were together in the same town, that's when I liked them. But yeah, because even when Jake showed up the one time when she was about to get drugs from that guy, like Jake only showed up because Lucas called him and told him what was going on. So
and Lucas only called him because he knew he could not get through to Peyton.
Yeah.
Again, he knew better.
Yeah, so it always comes back to Lucas. And then Nathan and Haley.
It's kind of like Pacey and Joey. No matter what, Pacey was always going to be there for Joey, whether she believed it or not. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. Whether we're together or not, I'm still going to be there for you.
And then Nathan and Haley are in the library or tutor center where they're filling out their college applications.
Looks like the library.
Yeah, they kind of look the same, so I wasn't sure. And then we see they fill their marital status as married. They both smile about it. And then with Dan still trying to find out, if he can find proof that Keith tried to kill him, he goes back to the bank. or goes to the bank with a security deposit, and he, asks the staff member if he can have privacy. He acts like he's going to open his, but then walks over to Keith and opens it to find the same ledger that he had in the ceiling tiles of his dealership office. So how did Keith get this? This is what I couldn't figure out. Because the last time...
Because it's really Dan's, right?
Yeah, so, and we know that Dan moved it from the tiles because Lucas and Andy were snooping, but we didn't see where he put it. And assumingly you think he put it in the dealership office, and then the dealership office burned down, and Keith wasn't at the fire. So how did he get it unless Deb took it and gave it to him for some reason? Because she did know about it. But again, the ledger's never really brought up as anything against Dan. I don't know. It's just, of all things he could find, was weird to me.
Well, and when did he realize it went missing?
Yeah, so I'm just
confused. If the ledger is so important to you, because it is,
yeah,
you would know that it's gone that day, the next day. What? So it's really weird because remember, Andy brings it up like, who, about the ledger, and then it just goes away, and it's like, okay, so you kept it somewhere safe. No, Keith had it, but when did you realize it was gone? Yesterday?
Yeah, because they didn't make it.
You confront anyone about it. You find it.
Yeah, because we didn't know what Dan was finding. They didn't make it obvious that he was looking for maybe that specific thing in his house, and then
I thought he was just snooping to see what Keith had.
Yeah, me too. So I was like, either he's just trying to find something.
Like evidence. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Evidence.
Yeah. So they just keep bringing the ledger up, but then never following through with anything about it.
But
so that's annoying.
But they do, because Keith brings it up to Dan. You don't want anyone to find out about this, and he holds it up.
Oh, I don't remember this.
Because it's coming up because he says, "Oh, Danny, Danny boy, you don't want anyone to find out about this," and it's the ledger. And I'm like, it's just kind of weird because I'm like, yeah, it is true. Like, when did Keith get this ledger?
Right.
I don't get it, but okay.
And another thing I was confused about was Peyton. She drove towards Winston-Salem and, I'm saying this right, Wilkesboro or somewhere, to, pour Ellie's ashes. But why this location? Like, maybe this was where they went the night before in the rain, but we didn't see it because it was a deleted scene. So maybe this location meant something to Ellie, but we don't know what or why, so I didn't like that, missing information there. But, it was crushing to see her pour the ashes out and say, say hi to my mom.
All alone again.
Yep. And she sits there for a while, but we don't know how long. She could have been there for hours.
Like, again, if Brooke's your best friend,
and
she knows that Ellie died, because clearly she does.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Brooke be there?
Right.
It's very weird.
Yeah. So, this is again Brooke putting Hayden second after a boy when she said she wouldn't, and but a boy that doesn't even want Brooke. She
also tells the same boy, like, you could talk bad about her.
Yeah. So
normally it's don't talk bad about my friend.
Yeah. So Brooke's just really bad friend in this episode.
Because she wouldn't say that about Haley. She wouldn't be like, say something bad about her.
Right.
No, but she has no problem saying that to Peyton. Now what? Like, it just doesn't add up to a good best friend.
Nope. Yeah, so your highs and lows?
My high was the Nathan actually being there the next morning, because it was awkward that first time around. But also, I'm a little confused at this. Given that, I don't know how long it was since the last time, or the only time they had sex there. The fact that, remember the whole birth control thing, he was ranting and raving about that. And then to hear, did he question her? Did you take a birth control today?
Well, the last time they were talking about this, she said that she did start taking it again. So,
but maybe she forgot. Again, is he keeping up on it? Is he wearing a condom? Like, this is all the same thing if they didn't talk about it before they had sex. Well, did you talk about it here before you had sex? Because you're not living together. So it's not like you can snoop and see that she is or isn't taking it. Because remember at the end, she said, I don't need it anymore. So I'm like, and again, remember she said she didn't take it because she was only thinking about being with her husband, not about taking it. Well, here she might only be thinking about her husband and not taking it. So it could still be the same thing. And so that's why I'm like, but you were so mad before to this where you're so comfortable to do it again, even though you know what could happen. Okay. And again, you're not really stable yet.
Right.
You know, you're not living together or anything. So it's just weird. Again, Nathan is just, okay. So again, who's he going to blame? Something happens. Okay. So, but I do like that he was there for her the next morning because, you know, it just wasn't good the other time, you know. But also, I did like Peyton having that one last hurrah road trip with Ellie, even though I don't like that Ellie just decided for Peyton. That was one of my lows, was that she just decided that, no, I'm going to leave tonight, even though I might die next week, but, you know, and I could have a couple more days. Nope, I'm going to make the decision for you for the rest of your life. Yeah, okay. So I didn't like that. That was one of my lows. Yeah. And also the whole ledger thing out of nowhere, like after months. Because it's almost, this is mid-season now, and we're finally bringing up the ledger. The ledger was brought up last season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't make any sense that it's now going to be brought up. Okay. And also it doesn't make any sense of how Keith got it.
Right.
I would say that's also my low. What about you?
Yeah. My low was definitely Ellie just dying and Peyton finding her. And then my high was probably Nathan and Haley finally making up, you know, toward the end and deciding that they'll you know, go through this college application together and figure out what they both want to do, you know, as a couple and not separately. Because they were just arguing about everything before. And then rating.
I rated a 7. I didn't really like it.
Oh. This is actually one of my favorite episodes just because of the whole
Really?
yeah, just because of the Brooke and Lucas scene, because that's a memorable, you know, scene and like all the romantic, quote unquote romantic scenes that they have. Even though the reason for it is not.
Nathan and Haley's rain scene wasn't memorable.
It is too, but like I feel like out of the One Tree Hill fandom, it seems like Brooke and Lucas is like one of the most popular couples, maybe just a little bit more popular than Haley and Lucas. So
Haley and Lucas.
I mean, sorry, Haley and Nathan. I get names mixed up.
I think the only reason why is because Nathan and Haley are solid. That's what fans remember.
Yeah, and maybe
and also because they were together since season 1.
Right.
Where they just fit, where because it was a love triangle, it's more which team instead of this is who.
Right. And I think maybe they take into account too, you know, the real life relationship as well for them. Maybe that's why they like them even more, because they're like at least at some point together in both, you know, show and real life. I don't know. But
well, people do. They blame Chad.
Yeah.
For the breakup of Brooke and Lucas, which is so wrong because again, in here in season 3, there's so many little Easter eggs of Lucas and Peyton that they're end game, but yet people blame Chad. Chad also didn't write the scripts.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know how much the creator, you know, took control of everything. So he did what he wanted to do. So he didn't think about Chad.
No, and honestly, he probably thought it, and honestly, he probably would think it'd be more fun to ruin their true feelings.
Yeah.
By being like, you know what? I'm gonna make you guys together
Yeah, like torture them.
Yeah, like you guys hate each other so much, I'm gonna put you two together. Like instead of like a normal person being like, okay, you guys can't work together, you hate each other, I'm gonna make you guys totally separate. No, I feel like it'd be the opposite of like, you know what? I like torturing you.
Yeah, he uses their feelings against them, especially, when Nathan and Haley get married again. And then too, because like the actors from the show too have mentioned that their real life situations have been written into the show too. So the creator just did whatever the hell he wanted with the show and their personal lives. So
Yeah, that's why I don't agree that it's because it's. I mean, unless Chad went and said, and I don't want this storyline, unless he had that much power. I don't believe it's because of Chad.
Yeah, plus Chad was fired from the show, so they were gonna break up anyways, even if they lasted that long. So yeah.
They were keeping Sophia. Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing, is like, who had more power in the end?
Yeah.
Because they kept her, got rid of him.
Yep. So
do you think they get rid of him because of Hillary?
maybe.
Hillary wasn't renewing her contract.
Yeah, it was far back when they first came out about the information about this. Because it's not currently here in season 3 that they talked about it, but because they're not even close to season 6. I think because there's like 2 different stories I remember being told originally back then and then again in present day. But yeah, so I think Hillary mentioned that Chad was looking out for her and like tried to use, as like the lead actor, try to use that power that he had over the creator to try to protect Hillary. And yeah, so he just got into a fight because he felt like he didn't have like anything worth, he felt like he didn't have anything. He did have something to lose, but not worth anything keeping to him. So he didn't care if he got fired or whatever, if he could protect Hillary. Yeah, so I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. We'll get to that episode when she talks about it, because I'm going by my memory, which isn't all the best sometimes. So if anybody wants to correct me on this in our comment section or whatever you want, email, like there's so many other ways you could tell us, but yeah, because like I said,
I feel like they will.
Yeah, somebody can fill me in and tell me if I'm right or wrong about whatever. But yeah, so
Best and worst.
Yeah, best and worst.
Who's yours?
My best was Nathan, even though it didn't make sense. He still had those clippings of Haley's tour, articles and supporting her, even though it just doesn't make sense, like I said. And then, being serious about college and where they should go together to be together and not so far apart. And then the worst is Brooke, because like we talked about, she was a bad friend of Peyton, just trying to keep Lucas. So yeah. Yours?
So the best, I know I was gonna say too, the best was Nathan, even though it didn't make sense. Like it was cute for the episode, but for storyline, it makes no sense. So yeah, that, and plus, I gotta go back to the fact that he remembers a lot. This boy, he remembers a lot. Just like my boy Pacey. They remember maybe too much. Where like Haley said, you always gotta be cute now. It's like that kind of thing. But yeah, even though it didn't make sense, he was definitely, the romantic one in this episode. So gonna give him the best. Plus, because I mean, let's be honest, who's he gonna go up against in this episode?
Nobody.
Nobody did enough, and because everybody else either was just bad, like they made mistakes, or
fighting,
or they weren't really relevant.
Yeah,
like Haley didn't do anything to stand out, and then everybody else was just bad. So yeah, it didn't. Yeah, I was like, he can't even go up against anyone
right,
to compete for the best. But there are some people that can compete for the worst.
Right.
But for me, I'm, even though I didn't like Ellie in this, because, she made Peyton's decision for her, even after basically hearing she wanted her to stay no matter what kind of thing. I'm going to give the worst to Brooke because she knew, she knew how Lucas felt when she saw those letters.
Mm-hmm.
Still decided to get with Lucas.
Yep.
Into a committed relationship, even though she played these games with him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Give him her letters too.
and also cheated.
Mm-hmm.
Did this even though Lucas did not sleep with Peyton. Just emotionally. You know, she did all these things that you could equal Lucas. And still she's throwing it back in Lucas's face. And I mean, Lucas is just trying to be a good friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, care, you know, Peyton's alone. And so, but again, Brooke just can't realize that she's always going to be there one way or another in your relationship. She hasn't gotten that yet. And yeah, I just didn't like her because it's like, if this is so bad, you know, Peyton being in your relationship, probably shouldn't have one with Lucas. Also, I didn't like how she throws it in Lucas's face, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, in the end, Lucas be there for her.
Right.
That scene. What? The person that you are basically like, don't ever talk to her again. You're then saying, come here, come give her a hug. What?
Right.
Like, so it's kind of like, she's kind of like Nathan in this, like back and forth. We don't know what the hell she really thinks and wants. You know, it's kind of that thing. So she's kind of like Nathan in that way. And, you know, and then again, you know, Ellie died. I don't know how you know, but you know Ellie died because it's not like you talked to Peyton. And, you know, then you're not even there for her in the end.
Right.
You give her a hug. Cool. So
yeah,
yeah, that's the only thing that made her there for Peyton. But otherwise, she wasn't there for Peyton. She didn't even know Ellie. She didn't even meet Ellie.
Nope.
And it's not even like then you can have a conversation to help Peyton through this of like, Ellie, you know, Ellie loved you. And, you know, something you would say to your friend. But she didn't even know Ellie, so you can't even say that.
Yeah.
Like she could say about her mom.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even say that. So it doesn't make any sense. Plus, yeah, I just didn't like the whole, she wasn't there for Peyton, but she also went on this back and forth with Lucas, you know, about Peyton.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't make any sense.
Nope.
That you would let your boyfriend hug this person that you just had a blown out fight with out in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense.
Nope. A lot of things don't make sense in this episode.
In the same episode, too. It's not even like the next episode where the opening is they go and confront her and comfort her. It's the same episode.
Yep.
They should have probably broken that up
to
like the opening of the next one.
Right.
Maybe then I would feel better about it, but I'm so bitter about it. So yeah, Brooke definitely the worst. Oh, isn't it crazy? Brooke beat out Dan.
Oh, yep.
I think it's because Dan he didn't really do too much. And we don't really know what he's doing with this ledger.
Yeah, besides trespassing.
Because when it comes down to it, it is his ledger. So
yeah, his property.
So he could say, I mean, Keith did steal it somehow. He got it. So I mean,
yeah, he just took it back.
Yeah. So I mean, for Dan, you know, we could say that he wasn't the worst because he took what was his.
Yeah, and just broke in Keith's house. Yeah, that was the worst.
Yeah. But I mean, he didn't do like.
He didn't harm anybody.
Right. Like Brooke was emotionally harming Peyton by not being there. So, and giving Lucas mixed messages. So, I mean, in that aspect, no, I mean, she was the worst.
Yeah, like, I mean, we could say Dan didn't even care about, you know, where Nathan was in the, you know, with the blackout or anything. That could have been something, but still. Brooke
maybe he knows because he called him and Nathan said, well, I'm at home.
Yeah.
Or when he went to the mayor's office, he knew Nathan was at home because it was raining outside.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then what's the next episode?
Episode 14, All Tomorrow's Parties.
Party.
Yep, busy. Seems
That's
like.
that's all I got out of it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Yep, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.